The Viking in the Kissing Booth. Once upon a time, in a village by the sea, there lived a young, handsome Viking named Lars. And Lars loved two things most of all: wearing pink clothes and kissing pretty girls. Even though Viking blood ran through his veins, Lars was more of a lover than a fighter. So when the village men went off to raid foreign lands, Lars often called in sick and stayed home. It was only then, when Lars was away from the watchful eyes of his Viking brothers, that he could truly be himself. He'd throw off his tattered, smelly leathers and don his finest, ruffliest, and fluffiest apparel, breathing a sigh of relief as soon as the silky fabric hit his skin. Not only did Lars love fine clothing, but he also really enjoyed expensive skin products. If Lars were born today, we'd call him a metrosexual, but in Lars's time, no such term existed, so he was just called Lars, you know, the one who wears pink, by the other villagers. One day when his brothers went off on a raid, Lars called in sick and decided, with all the extra time he had on his hands, to build a kissing booth. He figured with all the men away, he'd have lots of customers, and with all the money he'd make, he could buy more pink clothes, and maybe even some expensive skin products. A brilliant plan. As the afternoon sun hit its highest point in the sky, Lars dragged his newly constructed kissing booth to the center of town. He stepped inside, puckered up, and waited. Frida, an elder woman who owned the local bakery shop, was the first to stop by Lars's kissing booth. She glanced approvingly at the tall, handsome, fair-headed Viking from head to toe, figured, what the hell, tossed him a quarter, and leaned in for a smooch. She was so delighted, she continued to reach into her pockets for quarters until she had none left. By this time, a crowd of village women carrying heavy bags of coins surrounded the kissing booth, waving impatiently while waiting for their turn to kiss Lars. By the end of the day, Lars amassed a pile of quarters that was as tall as himself. He loaded his coins into a wheelbarrow and walked home, smiling as he dreamed of all the pink clothing and expensive skin products he could now afford. Each day, Lars dragged his kissing booth into the center of town as ladies traveled from near and faraway lands to visit the now famous Viking in the Kissing Booth. On the 20th day, Magnus and Eric, Lars's Viking brothers, arrived home from their quest. They strutted through the village like peacocks, patting each other's backs with heavy hands as they congratulated themselves on the trunk of coins they amassed during their raid. When they got to Lars's house, they noticed something strange. Lars's typically immaculate home and well-manicured lawn were filled with something shiny. Actually, with many shiny things. There were shiny piles surrounding his house and spilling through his windows. When Lars's Viking brothers opened the front door, thousands of shiny quarters spilled out onto the ground in front of them. The racket woke up Lars and he stumbled, exhausted from his exploits over the past 20 days, to the front door to meet his Viking brothers. "Lars, why are your lips almost as big as your head?" asked his eldest brother, Magnus. Lars reached up and touched his giant swollen lips and tried to answer, but no intelligible words came out. His lips were just too swollen to allow him to speak. So he grabbed a pen and wrote out the whole story of the past 20 days' events. The kissing booth, the quarters, the ladies from near and far. He told his brothers everything. Well, everything except for the part about him wanting to use the money to buy pink clothes and expensive skin products. That part he kept to himself. Magnus and Eric looked at Lars in awe. In 20 days, Lars had made 1,000 times more money with his kissing booth than his brothers had pillaging at least 10 other lands. It was then that his Viking brothers realized that the key to ensuring the continuity of civilization wasn't fighting with other men, but rather engaging in mutually beneficial commercial exchanges with women. And so Lars and his Viking brothers expanded Lars's kissing booth business. Lars kept the afternoon shift, which made him happy because it freed up his mornings, providing him with ample time to practice his daily skincare regimen. Magnus, his oldest brother, worked the evening shift because he loved being outside in the cool evening air, especially on nights when the moon was full. And Eric, the youngest brother, worked the morning shift because, well, he was the youngest and that was all that was left. For many, many years thereafter, the brothers enjoyed unimaginable prosperity with their kissing booth business as ladies from near and far continued to visit them, waiting on long lines that snake throughout the streets of their small Viking village and all the way out to the sea. The end. All right, everyone, so that's my silly story for today. I know it's been the first one in a long time. I just haven't really been thinking in terms of stories lately. Just none have come to mind until this one. And it was pretty ridiculous, so I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, I thought for the rest of the video, I'll show you how to construct the kissing booth in case you want to make your own. So what I did to start, I just masked off the parts of the Viking that are going to be hidden by the kissing booth, and I just used some post-it tape for that. So I want to make sure that the area right underneath his belt buckle is going to be hidden, and then the little parts of his shield on the left-hand side of the screen. And then we're going to leave his hatchet or his axe visible because we're going to have that look like it's coming out from in front of the booth. So to construct the booth, I'm just using this little 6-inch ruler, and I'm going to put a line right underneath the Viking's belly where the stamping ends. And then I'm going to put another little line about 1/2 an inch underneath that. And then I am going to just put a little tapered line on either side. And this is going to be the little counter of the kissing booth. And then I'm just going to attach the sides of the booth to the bottom of the booth by drawing those 2 lines on the side. And if you want to go a step further and make things look 3D, you can add that second triangular line on the side of the booth, and we'll color that in darker later. Now, to figure out where we want our kissing booth sign, I'm just taking my ruler and I'm going to put it about 1 inch above his head. And then I'm going to put my second line about 1 inch above that. Now we're going to construct the little poles that are holding up the kissing booth. And I'm going to draw my first pole right up against that part of his shield that isn't stamped. So that's how we know where to start. And then I'm going to use the same angle on the right side of the page, but I'm going to put this pole behind the axe. And my little wooden slats, they're maybe a little bit too thick, but I wasn't going to change it at this point. And now we're going to just draw in the edges of the piece of wood. So I'm doing this by hand because we just want some little rugged kind of, I don't know, edges to the wood, because the wood wouldn't be perfect. It wouldn't be straight up and down probably. It would be kind of rough and torn a little. So however you want to draw those, it is entirely up to you. We're going to draw in his lips, and it's just, it looks like a little pair of boobies, honestly. That's like all you draw, just like 2 little humps underneath his mustache. And then you're going to put a little circle right above that, and that's going to look like his bottom lips are puckering, and we're not going to see his top lips because they are hidden by his mustache. So it's that simple to make some puckered lips. And now I'm just going over my pencil lines with a Copic multi-liner, and this is 0.3 size tip. You could use a 0.3 size tip, a 0.5 size tip, whatever you prefer. I tend to like the 0.3 size tip for whatever reason. It feels natural to me. And I'm just going to go right over all of my pencil lines. And then once I finish that, we're going to erase the pencil lines underneath. And I use the Copic multi-liner because it is a Copic friendly black ink. So it's a good way to add in your line art to these types of images when you're drawing parts of the image in by hand. And I really do hope that you give this kissing booth a try, because when you break it down into its components, it's really easy. And the way that I did it, I didn't just, have an idea in my mind, oh, this is what the kissing booth should be. I didn't just sit down and draw it. I had a reference photo in front of me. So I just Googled cartoon kissing booth, And then I looked up the images on Google and I found one that I liked and I just kind of copied it. So there we have it. Our kissing booth is constructed and it's all ready to be colored in. So I'm not going to go back through the coloring with you because you saw all that during the main story. So if you want to color along, just go back and re-watch that story. And I will see you again in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked the story. I hope that the kissing booth tutorial was informative to you, and I really hope that it encourages you to give it a try. You don't have to put the Viking in the kissing booth. Any of your favorite images that you have at home or your favorite characters from your different stamp sets would fit. You know, you could make them fit. You could just tailor the size of the kissing booth to the size of the character. I just say go for it. I would love if you did it, and if you do so, I would love if you shared it with me so I could see as well. All right, have a good night, everyone. I'll see you again in the next video.